whole part because it's all taken care of as far as that goes. So we just have fun and have a conversation, and the technology takes care of itself.
Awesome.
So we have Ashley, Gary, Denise.
Is it like a split screen or something?
No, it actually, it should with the Hangout, whoever's talking, it switches back and forth between us automatically.
Right.
So that's taken care of. So whatever we see on the Hangout is what they see in person
Cool.
on the Facebook page. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I do a lot of Google Hangouts with my mastermind partner, but we don't do Google on air. I mean, Hangout on air.
Yeah, the Hangout on air, it's the same thing, except it streams it to your YouTube for archive for the recording, and then it also posts it to your Google+. So it's a little different than just a regular Hangout.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to tag some people. See if you're out there, everybody, and you can hear us, then go ahead and type any comments in the comment box if you have any questions for anyone, for me or for Brenda, who's here today. We're going to get started in just a second. Totally apologize. I had a 45-minute drive and I left 2 hours ago.
Oh.
And I just got here. My babysitter was like, "Where are you?" And it was just like crazy highway accidents and craziness. I was actually this afternoon at the premiere at the film festival of Tony Robbins' new movie, I Am Not Your Guru. So we had tickets to see that this afternoon, and it brought back a lot of fond memories for me, and I got to see a ton of my friends. And so it was an exciting afternoon, and then a very brief 2-hour drive home in traffic. And I don't even live in like LA or New York or anything like that. I live in the burbs, so traffic for us is like unusual.
Well, you got in almost on time.
Yeah, almost 10 minutes behind, but we're there.
It's kind of like as an actress, you have to kind of go with whatever happens.
You know, it's not just acting. That's just entrepreneurship in general.
Putting out fires.
Especially doing live broadcasting, because honestly, anything can happen. Let me tell you. I mean, I don't know. Have you done any work with Periscope and Blab yet?
I did, and one Blab, but no sound came out, so I had to kind of cancel that.
Yeah. I have yet to have one of these stalkers, the pervs, that I hear about on Periscope so fondly, from people that I know that are regular. But it's been interesting. You know, the only experience I had is that I was testing out to see if I could use a different camera setup on a Blab one day, and I had a bunch of guys come in from like Turkey, and they like completely took over my whole Blab, renamed it, and then started a conversation among themselves. And I was like, "What are you doing?" But yeah, I guess there's like perv jackers, like they come in there. And,
I read about that on Periscope. I didn't hear about that on Blab.
Yeah, they've spread to Blab by default.
I like Blab too.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting with Blab. I know they just did a major platform update and some things, and we'll see where it goes. You know, Facebook Live just did some massive updates this week to things. You can now broadcast live into groups,
right.
Which is interesting, and you know, all of the Droid people can now have Blabs as well.
All the what?
The Android. Previously, when Facebook Live went live, it only worked on iPhones and iPads. So now it works on all devices.
Wow, that's awesome.
So all the people who had Droids were feeling left out for a while.
Right. The only thing with Facebook Live, you don't get new people on, right? They just have to be your friends.
Yeah.
Blab, you get new people.
Yeah, Facebook Live is a kind of a closed loop. So if you have a lot of friends, they'll see a notification in their timeline. So if they happen to be paying attention at that moment that you go live, they can see you and join in on the fun. But it's not really, it's cool if you have a group and you tell everybody, you know, hey, show up the group at 8. But it's a one-way, one-person conversation at this point. Like the way that we're doing it, we can have up to 10 people on camera and have a conversation. So who knows? Who knows where it goes? So hopefully it's just going to keep getting better. You know, it really has been an experience with video. You know, I started out years ago when Hangout was like the hottest thing since sliced bread. Like, ooh,
oh, I know.
You could be on camera with 10 people. You know? And everyone was like amazed that it didn't cost, you know, because previously it cost, you know, a lot of money to do that.
A webinar or something, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's just a little bit of money, and it's changed, you know, which is amazing because for people like you and I that are working with people who are messengers and carrying that out, it's changed the whole playing field on how we communicate, you know, in a good way, I think. What do you think?
It's pretty amazing. Anybody can go on video now. And that's why I actually love teaching people also how to perform. There you, uh-oh, you just went blank. Can you hear me? Oh, it just went blank. Huh, let me Facebook you. Screen just went black.
Hi.
There you are.
Whoopsies. I accidentally hit the wrong button.
So what I was saying is that it's, you know, I like teaching people performance coming from an acting background because of video. Everybody can be on video, but the truth is most people don't really know how to be comfortable on video. They're experts in what they do, but they don't really know how to connect. So
hold on just a sec. I think you might have two windows open because I hear us twice.
No? It actually opens back up into the same window.
Because I hear us twice. Let me check mine.
It actually opens back up into the same window.
Let's see. All right, it was me.
Okay.
I did it.
Sometimes I got it together. Not you.
All right, we are back. Look at that. The amazing technology that Google gives us for free is not fat thumb proof if you hit the wrong button. It doesn't matter what you do. If you hit the close button, it's not going to work, Jess. Oh, well. So everyone who's out there, we are back. I see we have a couple people online. We have Gary and we have Marie.
Hi.
So,
hi, everybody.
Yay. We'll just pick up where we left off because I have been waiting all week to talk to you. I saw you on another group, another Facebook post, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. So then I started following you, and I'm like, this chick's got a good vibe. I need to talk to her. And then we chatted a little bit online, and I'm like, I've got to bring her message out because you've just got so much to share. So, you know, tell us what you do. What's your passion? What's you all about?
I'll tell you what, I am so passionate about several things. This delay is weird, but I guess I'll just talk over it. So, you know, I am so passionate about helping people really witness their own stories, find out which story of their big life story is the one that is going to heal themselves the most by delving into and inspire others, and even possibly be a story that they can share in such a way that they can use their unique talent as well. If they're a poet, if they're a singer, if they're a performer, where they could have moments where they can include that, what they're passionate about, inside of telling their story, sharing their message, and then earning money from it. I am passionate about that. It's kind of like I'm passionate about people being bolder, just being themselves, kind of giving people permission. But really the story I find is key, because when we hone in on, what story has what about our story has informed us, then we can change it and we can mold it and we can change the story of our lives and really become the hero of our lives. And that's kind of been my journey, going definitely from victim to hero.
And that's huge, a huge realization in everything that you do. Now you not only went from victim to hero, but then you monetized it.
Yeah, monetized it, yes. And what's interesting is that I wish I had a plan. Like, partly why I do what I do and I teach and I coach is because I had no plan. I was an actress and something very traumatic happened in my life. Your listeners may not know, so I'll just say where this all started from. My father, who I was extremely close with, shot and killed my mother, who I adored. And within a few months moved in with my aunt, my mother's sister, and then they got married. And the thing about that is it's a story, but it's also an event. And a lot, first of all, this was 20 years ago. I turned that into a scene in an acting class, like 3 years after my mom died, literally just to express myself, because I was hiding, I was in shame, I felt like damaged goods, all these things, because I hadn't examined my life. And I did it in an exercise that was supposed to be about being real. And I thought, I got to come out from behind the curtains. I have to be me. I thought I'd be judged, but instead I got a standing ovation. It was a top acting class in LA. And people started sharing with me their own stories and secret shames. And that is what gave me the impetus to expand it into a full one-person show that I now perform all over the world. I had no plan. A director wanted to work with me. A producer wanted to work with me. This is the thing. When you have a good story and a good message, people will flock to you and want to work with you. And that's kind of what happened to me. But it took me time, because the emotions were so big that I would do my show, people would laugh and people would cry, but then it was successful, and then I'd go home and be miserable and alone. And so a lot of what I teach is how to deal with the emotions that come with the story. And then I was doing my show at a spiritual community in Sedona, and the minister knew me, and he said, you should do a workshop on forgiveness, because that was the message of my show. I was like, okay. And so that's how I started doing workshops. And then at the workshops, people were like, I want to, work one-on-one with you. And that's how the coaching came about. But I mean, I have a 2-year master's degree in spiritual psychology, so that's what I learned. But I kept saying yes, but why I teach this is that, there's a faster way. We're talking about a decade, started really making money consistently with my show. I've also keynoted plenty of places, is probably in 2006. I have a really good story, not just a story, but a really good message. And I have a really unique way of telling it. And so once I learned, hey, it could be a business, I started making money sharing the story, but I even had to deal with emotional stuff around that. Like, oh my God, am I making money off of my mother's death? I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I really had to investigate. And that's what I work on with people. Like, of course you can tell your story. It's your perspective. People write books all the time, so that's where it all came from.
So I love that, because you had said one thing about giving permission, and somehow we're getting double again. I don't know why. I think Google's just going to be weird today. Oh, there we go. It must be better. If you guys are out there listening, let me know if you're getting feedback, and I'll see what I can do. But for me, it just came and went. So we're going to go with that. It's the spirits talking to us today. Who knows? One of the things that I love about your story is that you said that you stood up and you shared, and then other people came to you and shared their stories as well. And that's a big part of this whole thing about broadcasting. And one of the things that I've connected to and am so passionate about is that when you do something, it gives others permission to do the same. So standing up and creating a video, standing up on stage and sharing your story, standing up and forgiving someone for something that is quite understandably unforgivable. But really, looking at that and saying, hey, I'm going to do this, you're giving others to do the same. And I think that that's the work that we all do. And a lot of people discredit that. As entrepreneurs, we hide in our little shells, and we're like, oh, I gotta work, especially with all this online stuff. Like, people don't even come out of their houses and get dressed anymore. It's getting kind of crazy. But above and beyond that, like, I did an interview with someone the other day, and she's all poised with her hair and makeup, and then she stood up and she had her pajama bottoms on. She's like, I just don't wear pants anymore, there's no need. I was like, I know, I hear you. But with that, communication is on a different level. So the work that you do it is elevated to such a high point right now, such a necessity point of people learn, they need to learn to own their stuff and have the permission to go ahead and do that, because I think it's easy to get into that mode of judgment. Like, we tend to hold ourselves back because we're afraid that someone's going to judge us.
Yeah, and I deal with that a lot. I also have the first program I created, the first online program I created is how to create, promote, and profit with a one-person show. And in that course, it's primarily performers, and it is about not only writing your story and healing from it, but really getting out there and saying it in a big way. And what I find is that every single one of them deal with being scared of being visible, because it's not just self-judgment, but they're so afraid of the judgment of others. And as actors, growing up as an actor, part of you have to be brave. If you're going to be a storyteller, you have to be brave, and you have to not take on what other people say. Learn that, even with reviews, when I get reviewed, I look at it. Is there something truthful in here? If there's something critical, if it is, I learn from it. If it doesn't, if I don't find it valuable, I just toss it away. So there's an element of not taking things personally, so that you can be visible and know that when other people are judging you, it's a boomerang. It goes right back to them. So learning how to be non-judgmental of yourself, and then also doing the work to not judge others, helps you, helps people to be able to stand up in their truth. So, the good news is that it's almost like an inside job. Like, we can forgive the judgments we have of ourselves, and then take responsibility to look at, well, do you have judgments of others? And I know, as an entrepreneur, it's very hard not to compare to others and feel less than or feel more than and stuff like that. But our job is to really get honest and say, wow, well, if I'm judging someone else, maybe there is judgment coming back. And just being like a fierce warrior for releasing the judgment. It doesn't help anybody. And I really believe as we become less judgmental, we receive less judgment. It certainly doesn't affect me, like it used to.
Yeah, for sure. The judgment thing, I think that, in looking at that and knowing, several high level entrepreneurs and very successful people versus people just starting out, I think sometimes we get stuck in our own stuff. To put it nicely.
Yeah. We always get stuck in our own stuff until we look at it, really witness our life, witness our patterns, witness our beliefs, and it's kind of that old thing of, what is it that you don't know? That's why it's good to work with a coach, because they can help you kind of unearth those things in a really loving way, right? Because all of my work is about not beating ourselves up.
And it's interesting that you say that, because, I've had this amazing gift for the last few years where I traveled and worked with a ton of the influencers in the internet age and the motivational speaking thing. And I got to meet some of the most amazing, most incredible people in the world. And I also got to see them in their persona, which was their true selves. And, looking at that, we tend to idealize people and say, oh, well, they're amazing and they're perfect and they have this product in their program and they make tons of money and then so they must be perfect and I'm not. And I think social media makes that harder. Like, how many times do you go on Facebook or something and someone posts, oh, I just had $1 million day in an hour. I made $1 million with my launch. And then you're like, oh, crap. I can't do that. And then you just start with the self beating up as an entrepreneur. And you said something earlier that resonated, that it took you 10 years. So yeah, they had $1 million day and they were awesome and amazing at it. But you know what? That it took 10 years for that $1 million day.
Yeah, they've been nurturing it. A lot of them have been online for so long, or have been in business for so long, that they've had so many people, and then they already have the joint ventures in place. They've got it all down. And so it's kind of a weird atmosphere that, people at maybe a starter level are comparing themselves to the people who've been in business for so long and have it down. And it's kind of made to seem like that. And it's kind of strange to me.
Yeah, it's kind of an illusion. Somebody posted a meme the other day that I absolutely love. And it says, the grass may be greener on the other side only because it's fake. And it was like a big picture of AstroTurf. And I was like, that is so true with social media right now. It's people are like posing and they're like, yeah, I don't do launches anymore. I never do launches. Launches are a waste and you should do this. And then they do a product launch and I'm like, huh?
Oh God, yeah. That's why, it's really important to know yourself so that you don't get pulled into that stuff. Also there's a lot of, people seeking outer validation. And it's like, there's such an opportunity to just really validate yourself. So you don't have to be in a program or like try to be like someone else. It's like, you can be the best you. And that's what I find attractive. That's what attracts people to me. That's what attracts me to other people, when they're just the best them. They're not trying to be someone else. I was going to say something else and it flew out of my head.
Yeah, it's that authenticity. And that really,
Oh yeah. This is what I was talking to someone about the other day. And I definitely follow all the big teachers and everything like that. And I think what they're presenting is amazing. And there's some incredibly valuable things. But I also think there's an opportunity, and a lot of people are talking about your story. It is very important. But I feel like because of the depth of where I go with my story, I know it's why I'm so successful in what I do, certainly with my show and my speaking engagements. I do hear stories, and I do hear stories that are, motivating and things like that. But what I like is an even deeper cut. What I teach is an even deeper cut. It's not just, I had $10 in the bank. It's what else went with that? What were your thoughts? What were your beliefs? What else was frickin' falling apart instead of just that? Like, there's this weird emphasis on the money thing right now that is, I guess it can be interesting, but to me, the story behind it, what's really real, what's really authentic is what grabs people. And that's, for me, sharing the details actually connects me to people, So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it really, that authenticity, and even on camera, I talk with people when we're creating videos. I do a lot of work with business owners who are creating their coaching programs on video or funnels, and we map all that out and pull all that together for them, and then I teach them how to go ahead and film all of that. So, in that process, in handling the technology, I have so many people that are like, well, I just can't do video because I need my hair done and my makeup done, and I need to lose 20 pounds.
Well, and the weight stops people a lot, and it's a shame because people really want to hear your message. We want care. I have an ego too. I definitely have an ego, and I would like to be thinner. My hair should be better, but yet I really get that it's my message, and I'm doing a disservice if I'm all caught up in myself, because the truth is the people watching don't really care what I look like or how much I weigh.
Now, if they're sitting there judging me because I have a little bit of gray here because I haven't quite made it to the hair salon, then you know what? You're probably not someone that I want to work with anyway, because it's probably not going to work out.
Exactly. But and there is a place to get your hair done. There is a place and a time if you're doing a fancy video, but I believe it's you know what? There are so many talented people that can teach people and help people. And yes, I just want the real person. it's kind of funny because on TV commercials, you know, because I come from an acting background, for commercials, they always actually dress actors down and actually take their hair and make it like, you know, not perfect, because they're trying in commercials to relate to real people versus TV shows where everyone's perfect looking. So, you know, that's a good analogy. You know, when you talk to those clients, it's like, you know, you actually want to be more real. You want to relate to people who also don't have a great hair day, you know, but yet they're still working. They're still doing what they need to do, you know?
Or you have the Oprah. People are like, well, I want to be like Oprah. And I'm like, well, you know, honey, Oprah didn't look like that when she first started.
Yeah. And you know, there's definitely a time and a place. I mean, I actually love all these brand shoots and stuff like that. They're absolutely beautiful. But I think, you know, to use that as an excuse with not getting on video is really doing a disservice to these business owners, because being real and being authentic is what's going to bring people to you, not how good you look. Unless, you know, unless that's, you know, maybe for a spa, you want to definitely, you know, have your face look great and everything like that. But, you know, for most businesses, you just want to be real. You know, it's almost like be their best friend. Let them get to know who you are. Or if you're a lawyer or whatever, you know, the other fields, it's like, well, you know, be authoritative, but be how you are in person. Don't put a persona on. Unless you're acting in a scene or something and doing it for fun and entertainment.
Yeah, if you're doing videos for business, don't act.
You know, but the thing is, what I say for acting, what I think of with acting is, because I learned at the top schools in LA, New York, and in London. And really what I always learned was be authentic, be you. Acting is like being you in imaginary circumstances. Because the truth is, when you're doing video, there's a camera right there. You're talking to a camera, and yet you're acting because you're pretending like your best friend is there or someone that you're pulling in. That's what I mean by acting. I don't mean putting something on. However, when I do teach people to do shows or do like a scene within their speaking presentation, I have them jump into other characters to make a point that could be really funny. You know, like they jump into their father, or they jump into that, you know, that client that, you know, was hard to handle or something like that, how you handle them. Like to jump into the other personas, it's really fun and it's engaging.
That's a really good tip for you guys. For those of you that didn't catch that, what she was talking about when you're telling a story and you're using that to bring your character in there. And, you know, if you're talking about your mom, then kind of talk a little bit like your mom or some crazy person or whatever, you know, be like that for just a moment. It makes your videos fun. And it makes it fun for you too, to do that kind of video, because you can play with it and be playful. And if you'll notice, like any major speaker or entertainer, like the motivational guys, all the guys that are on stage, like Zig and Tony and all of that, they have voice changes and character changes and all of that too. It's okay for you to do that. Really good point that you brought that up, for sure. So what are some things, what are some tips that you could give? Because pretty much here, the purpose of our group for She Broadcast is we're all business owners. We're looking to broadcast ourselves more online using this new media. So whether we're podcasting, video casting, YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live that we have now, webinars, Hangouts. So we're all doing something to convey our message out there. What are some strategies that you could share with us to help us with that?
Like a general strategy? Well, you know what, my expertise is on storytelling and on performance. One thing that I find really important, and I hear it all the time, is people hate their voices.
Yes.
And if you hate your voice, you're not going to be all you can be when you're recording, and you're going to stop yourself. And there's two ways that you can deal with that. Either you can just make peace with it. And I remember the first time I heard myself on radio was years and years and years ago, and I absolutely hated my voice. But then I learned that it was distinctive and it was colorful. And back then I had a heavy, heavy, heavy New York accent. So, but so did everyone else in New York. But it was nasally. Now I was already an actress. So what I learned, and so this is either you just accept it like it is and just be you. That's your unique, that's you being unique. Or if like your voice is nasally or something like that, you can actually go to a voice coach and they can help you get rid of the nasal. I mean, and you know, here it is. I'm putting the nasal right now. Then I just, I lower where I bring my voice. I mean, I can help clients with it, but I'm not a voice coach or a speech coach. But you bring down the words, you bring it out from a different place. And the other thing is with breathing, I find that, especially with business owners who want to come off as authoritative, sometimes there are women who have really young voices and they don't like the voice. It's almost, in my experience, it's kind of like a stuckness in an age stage. They don't like their voice. It's kind of stuck at this little girl pitch, and they want to be authoritative. So in that case, I would actually suggest that they work with a coach or a therapist or a speech therapist to lower their register, to know it's okay to be strong and bold, and they could do it themselves with a little guidance as far as just breathing differently and breathing from their diaphragm and opening up their throat, and then they'll be much more authoritative. They'll come across like that. That said, if they have this little girl voice, but it's uniquely them and they love it, then go for it and make it work for you. It's really about owning who you are. But if there's a part of you that's like, it's really not me, I would say, get the help, the support you need to shift it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge one, the whole voice thing. I hear a lot of that all the time. Like, I don't like my voice, I don't like my hair, or things like that.
Yeah.
Really,
I have a tip for the hair thing.
Okay.
Especially as curly haired girls. I don't know.
I don't know what you mean.
Are just like, I don't know how my hair is going to end up each day. And I just told someone this in my group, is because for her business, it's more sleek, it's about money, that her hair, she looks more authoritative when her hair is straight. And so she'll go to the salon, before she's going to do a series of videos, and they'll straighten it, it'll look fabulous, and she can do 4 videos on that day. And that's what she's doing. So this way, there are certain little things you can do to just get it handled. If you want to get your makeup done because you really have no clue about makeup, you can go to a department store, and even for free, just have them, usually, Lancome or someone, MAC, will do your makeup for free. Just tell them not to do it too heavy, because on video, on stage, is really close,
That's a really good tip with that. It's a point with an entrepreneur that there's always a way. If you want it bad enough, you'll always figure out a way to get that done. So one question, and I'm sure you get this a lot, is, so I'm a business owner. How much or how little, or what do I even do with my personal stories to share them? Because I'm in business, right? So I don't want to talk about my stuff, or do I?
Yes. So what I suggest, I actually, when I work with people, I give them a specific exercise, and I'm going to do it on the web. I'm going to give them the exercise. I'm almost positive it's going to be 60 minutes on the webinar next week. But I give them an exercise to go through their life story and to actually come up with the theme of their life, like 1 or 2 patterns that come up. And this way, those are the stories you're going to first go to look at, because those are going to be really real. And then you're going to pick which one is going to support what I am selling or the service I'm giving.
That's really good advice.
It's not random. It's not like, oh, this is what I'm selling you, but I'm going to talk about something completely different. But I bet, since you're a business owner, and if you're a solo business owner, hopefully you've gone into something that means something to you. And so then you can tap into, oh, why did I go into this? Even if you didn't consciously pick it, you could still say, oh, I picked that business because of this that happened to me then. And then you can pull in a story from it.
Yeah, for me, I had an experience where I never really told stories when I first started speaking and doing stage presentations. It was all about, well, my personal stuff is my personal stuff, and my business stuff is my business stuff, and you don't need to know about me and what I do. You just hire me to do work. And so I was very boxed with what I did. And one day I'm sitting at a Tony Robbins seminar, and the tickets are $10,000 a seat to be at this event. And I'm there with my husband, and we're doing this training, and he's going through the forces of business mastery, and the 7 forces, the 7 things that you need to master your business. And as he's going through them, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I did that when I had my first business at age 5. and I used to sell seashells down by the seashore. And, you know, but my mom named me Jessie instead of Sally. So, but, you know, so I'm here and I'm thinking about it like, oh, and I understood that, and I understood that, and I was like, wait a minute, and I'm like, I really need to talk about this to people, about how when I was 5 and I sold seashells, and how I marketed my seashells, and how I told a story about my seashells, and what I learned from this experience. And now here's Tony, you know, 20 something years later, and he's charging $10,000 a ticket to teach something that I learned to put into practice when I was 5. So
Wow.
I the next time I went on stage, I incorporated that into my presentation, and man, people were coming up to me with tears in their eyes, with hugs, with love, the love that came from that room, instead of me just giving them business information, which was valuable, and I would get a lot of thank yous. The shift that I got when I started sharing my personal stuff of this little 5-year-old girl with pigtails became love. And it changed my business presentation to a presentation of love. And we know that people buy, they're buying you. They're not really buying your product or service. They're buying you because they have a connection with you. And that changed everything for me. That's why I was so excited when I found someone who was actually teaching the story part.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of being a big stage, because I've seen the story part taught, but only if you went to a speaker's program and you wanted to speak on stage and you wanted to do this and that. And there was so much other stuff that a lot of people aren't interested in being on stage, but telling your story is so valuable. It's been such a game changer for me.
Yeah, and it's what stays with people. That's, you know, that's the thing. You can give them all the business know-how for sure. You can tell them, you know, how to make the videos, and, you know, how, you know, you do this and then you do that, and they'll implement it and they'll thank you, but they won't remember you. They won't remember. And, you know, that's interesting that you just said that thing about the love, because I get so much incredible love when I'm sharing my stuff, even as my one-woman show. I mean, besides people sobbing after and their hearts are open, it's this, you know, this is the thing. I know you can do it when you're on stage and live. There's this amazing feeling between you as the presenter and the people that are there when you're being real like that, because it opens people's hearts. And what I'm hoping is that the same thing can happen in video. Like when you really have your tribe, you really have the people who are following you, and you're giving them value, that if you weave in stories that are authentic and real, that then you get that same connection that you have when you're live.
Yeah, it's huge with, you know, getting people to know, like, and trust you and love you. I mean, it brings up emotions in people that, you know, selling and buying is an emotional experience. It's an emotional exchange of energy. And, you know, without the story, it's not there. So, you know, all of you business owners, I'm sure you can come up with something. And you have a webinar coming up where you just mentioned you're going to be teaching this process in a webinar.
I'm gonna read it, okay? I have my little cheat sheet here. So
I'll post it in the group too.
Okay, it's next Wednesday, the 20th of April. It's going to be at 12 noon. I'm almost positive that is the time. And it's called Discover My 3-Step Success System for Crafting and Confidently Performing Your Authentic Signature Story on Stage and on Video. And then right after that, even if your story feels emotional or unsafe, so that you can spread your message across the world, express yourself fully, and make money in the process.
Awesome. And is there a link that's short?
There is a link.
Okay.
It's my website, which is www.forgivenessandfreedom.com. It's forgivenessandfreedom.com/story webinar. forgivenessandfreedom.com/story webinar.
All right, we got it in the chat there for you. We have a question, and anyone else that's out there that has questions, you know, Brenda's here to help us. She has volunteered our time. She's come on as the expert today to help us craft all these. So if you have questions, don't hold back, especially if you think that we're going to judge you, because we're not. We're all here with the love.
No judgment.
So So no judgment is allowed in my groups here, because we all love you, and we're here and we do this because we want you to succeed. So please think of what it is that you need help with, or questions or thoughts or ideas, and we're here for you. So Sherry Lee has a question, and she says, how do you plan out the story to be embedded in your business presentations without getting too mushy or emotional, and at the same time not sounding too strategic?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's what I'm going to deal with in the webinar more in detail. I say you have got to do the inner work at the same time that you're doing the outer work, so that your emotions don't leak out in the wrong places. And that's what I learned the hard way. Not in that, like when I was doing my one-woman show, it was, you know, the first time was, I don't know, just a few years after my mom died, and I still had emotions, and they didn't leak out in the show in wrong places, but they leaked out in life in the wrong places, because I try to be strong. And then I worked my inner process so much that I could even do a better presentation on stage, because I could really go for it. I could really go for the anger of the story I was telling, or the sadness, because I knew I could pull it right back, because I, Brenda, am neutral. So it's about doing the inner work, which would be forgiveness of judgments of yourself, forgiveness of judgments of the other person, reframing things so that you are free to go to the extremes in the story, because emotions should be in the story. If it's a story that was sad, a story that was something devastating, you should be able to put it in there. That will make it juicy, and that'll make it interesting for people. And if you do the inner work at the same time, which is something I work on with my clients, then you're healing at the same time as you're bringing your story out there and healing other people. And then it's a matter of technically looking at, okay, how much is too much story? Where do I put it? And again, you're using your story to serve the business. So it should be just something that's like, let me think if I can think offhand what it would be. Like if I was teaching about setting healthy boundaries, let's say, then I would use a story from my life where I had no boundaries and someone walked all over them. And then I would teach, and then I would talk about, well, what I would do now, something like that.
Yeah, that's huge, you know, bringing it in. And even the story that you tell doesn't necessarily, I mean, have to be a business thing.
Oh, yeah.
Per se, it can be another story. You know, Brenda, I found you because I'm going through owning my childhood right now, which wasn't ideal. And on a whim, you know, sometimes the universe pushes us. And that, you know, I was always on the fence, like, do I talk about my why? Because my why is so huge. And it's a story that, you know, as a child, involved abuse and all of these things that we just aren't supposed to talk about, you know.
And secrets are what hurts people.
Yeah. And for me, it went through so much emotional trauma because I was not supposed to talk about it. And when I did, I was punished for it severely. So I spent my whole life not talking, even though that wasn't my natural skill.
Right.
And now here I am years later in this huge successful business on these huge stages, talking to thousands of people, broadcasting all over the place. And I always felt like I had this secret of holding back because I was supposed to talk about things. So in working through that and talking about it, people were like, well, you need to share your story. And I'm like, well, all of that abuse stuff doesn't have anything to do with my business. And they're like, but it made you who you are.
Yeah.
You need to find the gift in that, Jessica. You need to find the gift in that. And so what happened is amazing things transpired in my life with my story where, you know, all this stuff happened. And then one day I'm sitting and a very famous person sits me down and says, we want you to come and work for us. And here's why. And they listed out all these things that I thought were my curses.
Wow.
Were actually the reason why they were hiring me. And so I took that and was like, you know what, that has a point to it. And I was given this gift because it's something that I have to share to give others permission. Others permission to say, you know, maybe you're not supposed to talk about it. How many times do we say with our kids, kids should be heard, children should be heard, seen but not heard, or, you know, shut up and put up, you know, and all these things. And that's my why of my whole business, is that that's garbage talk. You know,
That's amazing. I love your why.
you know, and I'm like, but if I don't tell people my why, then how are they ever going to trust me and understand how passionate I am about my business if I don't share this story? So it's scary. I'm going through this process now.
If it's scary, it's right on.
Yeah, it's so right on. And the universe pushes people sometimes in funny ways. So I got this email that came through, and it was a group of people. It was Tony Robbins' 56th birthday. So they were looking for 56 stories of transformation of people who had transformed their lives from Tony Robbins' teachings. And I saw the email, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, and the deadline was midnight that night to submit your story. And so I was like, my first was, I cannot put this story out there because people will judge me. People will know about my childhood. Family members could be hurt. You know, all the old stuff coming through. I'm a businesswoman now. People don't need to know about that. What does that have to do with me and my success mindset and all of these things? And then 9 o'clock, I thought about it again. 9:30, 9:35, 9:40. And I'm like, this book, and I turned off my computer and went to bed, and then I'm lying in bed, and then it's like 10:15, and I'm like, you just need to submit your story and own this. And
if you were in my group then, I would have said, get that out there.
Yeah, and I'm going through all this crazy self-talk, like, and I got up and I wrote the story, and then I was like, well, they're not going to pick me anyway because it's like midnight. It's like 11:30 when I hit the send button, and it's probably full, and they only needed 56.
Oh, the way our voices.
So, like, 12:01 a.m., this email comes back in, and it's the guy who's in charge of the book, and he writes, that's the best story that's been submitted for this book. You're in the book. We're going to make room for you in the book. And in fact, your story was so well written, I don't even need to edit it. Congratulations.
I'm so glad you listened to your inner guidance.
So, you know, it was the garbage, the garbage that I put myself through, you know, and as I'm going through this whole experience, here comes this Brenda Adelman popping up with her beautiful hot pink picture, which is one of my favorite colors, on my Facebook feed. And I'm like, oh, universe, sometimes you are just too funny.
Oh, no, that just popped up there?
Yeah, at the same time as I'm going through this whole thing about the book, and we're in another group together with Amanda, and here you are posting with your pink photo and my favorite color, and I'm going through this whole book thing, and I'm just like, ooh, who is this chick?
Oh, that's awesome. That's one of those God winks. Wow. That's so awesome. I love hearing that. It's like when the veil is lifted. That's perfect timing. So then this was somewhat recently then.
It was extremely recent, and in that experience, the book took off. Tony loved it, and now they're talking about doing a TEDx style event of all the speakers from this book. So it's turning into something that's just amazing, and it's such a gift. And you know, if I didn't own me and my story and say that I don't care if somebody judges me, because I know that there are people out there that are going to judge me no matter what I do, whether I do it or not. But there are more people out there who need to hear my message, and that's more important.
I want to say something more on judgment, because I learned a while ago, like this is over 10 years ago. I was so afraid of judgment, and one of my issues has been emotional eating in the past. You'll see in my little Kindle book, I talk about it in there. And so instead of lashing out, I would overeat and over-exercise, but I would overeat, and then I'd be beating myself up about the eating versus what I was really angry about. And one of the things I did when I would gain weight is I would start wearing lower necklines because I felt like, well, people aren't looking at my hips, they're looking here. Now, women can judge other women. It happens all the time, right? And I remember it was back when I was in my master's program. So we would meet once a month, a room of like 200 people. And I'm wearing this beautiful dress, but low cut. And I just remember seeing the woman's eyes just staring at me. And I could tell there's real judgment. right? And we take things on, whether they're true or not, we take them on. I felt like she was judging me for dressing sexy in that moment. Wouldn't you know that, but I was working on self-forgiveness. It was a master's in spiritual psychology. I was working on, you know, not taking it on. And the next month, that woman shows up in a low-cut outfit, like with sexy clothes that she had never worn before. So it's very interesting because sometimes people judge us only because they don't yet have the courage to do certain things themselves. And so if you can turn it around and say, well, those people are judging, but maybe I'm also inspiring them. Because I know for me, oftentimes I can't even do something for myself, but I will do it if I know I'm going to change somebody else's life. And so if you move forward and you can find the courage to tell your story, because you know, even if someone is judging you today, it's going to inspire them, hopefully, to go deeper into their own life tomorrow, you know?
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. It's just, you know, that whole permission and why we do what we do. You know, why we work so hard. Because
I'm a big permission giver. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is that. So anything else that you want to share? We're a little bit after 7 East Coast time. You're on the West Coast, but well, wrap things up. I'm going to post your webinar. We have some people posting in there. If anybody has any other questions for Brenda, now's the time. Time to go. Opportunity. But we have. I know someone said they signed up for the webinar. Actually, there was a question there. When is the webinar? There was no date on the page.
Oh, there wasn't? Oh, it's on, it's Wednesday, the 20th at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. And I will have a replay of it. I'm planning on a replay, so sign up even if you can't make it then, but if you can, it's great. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, and you're going to be going through that exercise that you mentioned, which will.
Yes, on the webinar, I'm going to include the exercise. I might even, I'll do it on the webinar. If I don't feel I can do it on the webinar, I'll give a little cheat sheet to people who sign up with how to really find the theme of their life story so that they can pick and choose which stories to put within their business presentations.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you're going to be amazed. You know, how that's going to change things for you with that. So I'm super excited. I don't see we have any other questions coming in at the time.
For having me.
Yeah, you're amazing. I'm so glad we found each other.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
It's my crazy moment of just craziness, and then there you are.
That's pretty awesome. That's a great moment to find me. I'm honored. It's awesome.
So yeah, so divine intervention.
Yep, for sure. Well, thank you so much.
So I have your webinar info. I'm going to post it in the group. The replay of the session will be in the group permanently, so anyone can come back to it at any time. I'll send you the link as well for it. And thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you.